When I was in college, I got a job delivering pizzas late at night. Typically, I would work until about 2 a.m. It was a shitty job, and the shop was extremely dirty, unsanitary, and falling apart, but I typically made really good tips, so it was worth it. I was 19 at the time, female, and it's summertime in Colorado, so even at night, it's still fairly warm. Important detail for later. This was my second weekend on the job, so I was still getting used to it, and I'm already a paranoid person, so I preferred just dropping off the pizza, taking my tip, and then leaving right away for the next delivery. I pretty much never went inside the person's house, and if I did, I would just step inside real quick, but leave the door open. It was pretty close to midnight when I got a delivery to a house on the east side of town. It was supposed to be my last delivery of the night. I pulled up to the house and it looked pretty normal from the outside. The street was really dark, but I didn't feel uncomfortable. I walked up to the door and knocked. This big shirtless old dude with a beer belly answers the door and tells me to come inside. I got weird vibes from him off the bat. I declined to come in and tried to just give him his pizza right there, but then he goes, "Come inside, it's freezing out and we don't want the cold air coming in." This didn't make sense to me as it was summer. So stupidly, I get nervous and I take one step inside his house, not going all the way in though. Then he goes, "No, come all the way in, it's cold out." I should have left at this point, but I was freaking out not thinking straight, so I went in and he closed both the screen door and the main door behind me. I'm trying to calm myself down, telling myself I'm overreacting. He then yells to his wife that the pizza's here. I can see her in the kitchen cooking, which seemed weird that she ordered a pizza but was also cooking IDK. I look around their living room and it is filled to the brim with stuffed animals, completely covering the couches, tables, windowsills, everything. It gave me a really weird vibe. Then his wife comes into the living room holding something outstretched in her hand. She walks up to me and I see that it's some kind of bread cake. She goes, "Eat this banana bread, and don't worry, it's not poisonous." Wap. I tried to politely decline, lying and saying I'm on a diet. She just stares at me, still with her hand outstretched, waiting for me to take the bread. I don't take it, and then she gets really upset and starts yelling at me to eat the bread. I decline again, but this time I'm not trying to be polite, and I tell the couple that I really got to get going back to work. I'm still holding the pizza too, and thinking about just running out the door at this point. She gives up on trying to make me eat the bread and walks back into the kitchen. Then the man is like, "Let me find some change for your tip." He starts looking all around the living room, digging through the couch cushions trying to find change to give me. I tell him to forget it and that I don't need the tip, that he can just take the pizza, but he insists on finding a tip for me. He spends the next several minutes searching his stuffed animal-infested living room for change, and I start to think to myself that they're trying to stall me. Most people have the tip ready when I get to their house. I was so worked up at this point that I just tell the dude I'm leaving and start to open the door. He took his pizza and gave me a few quarters that he found. I booked it out of there and went back to the shop. I told my supervisor what happened and he didn't seem to care. He just sent me on another delivery. I was pissed. I don't know if that couple was actually creepy or just really socially awkward, but I never delivered to that house again. The filthy food couriers carrying Just Eat and Deliveroo goods were filmed brazenly urinating in the property just moments after dropping off grub. One of the delivery drivers was spotted peeing in the close earlier this week. Residents were disgusted by what they saw. Earlier this year, another delivery driver did the same thing. A disgusting puddle was left in the hallway after the driver finished his business. One outraged homeowner at the block in the capital's posh fountain bridge blasted, "It's utterly disgusting and we're sick of it." I understand the drivers are shoved for time and are under financial pressures to secure the next order, but there's absolutely no excuse for this. It would make you think twice about using these companies. It's so unhygienic to be doing the toilet, not washing your hands, and then handling food. The shocking incidents that were caught on camera happened months apart. Residents claim others haven't been filmed. Grim footage from April shows a driver clad in Deliveroo's signature turquoise uniform emptying his bladder. He hurries down the stairs, and minutes later, a stream of urine can be seen flowing through his legs. And just last week, a Just Eat branded driver also took a leak outside the same flat. The gray-haired man walks down the stairs with an orange Just Eat bag clearly on show. He unbuttons his trousers with one hand before later stepping over the puddle of pee directly at the main entrance door. The resident reported the foul act to both Just Eat and Deliveroo, but claims they weren't interested in resolving his concerns. He added, both of them tried to pass the buck and say it had nothing to do with them. We've been left out of pocket as we've had to fork out our own cash to deep clean the clothes. The smell was awful. They wouldn't do this in their own home, so why is it acceptable to do it here? There are women and children in the building, and then there's 2 grown men standing with their bits out. I'll certainly not be using either company again. They have a complete lack of interest in those who are the face of their brands. Just Eat and Deliveroo insist they are not responsible for all drivers, and some are directly employed by restaurants. Deliveroo said, this behavior is completely unacceptable. Deliveroo is committed to ensuring the highest standards of behavior, and we are very concerned to see this footage. We take such matters extremely seriously and are conducting a thorough investigation. Just Eat declined to comment. Back when I first started, I got an old Chicago order at 11 at night. Was pretty decent, but I was quite naive at that time, and looking back, the payout was not worth the trouble. Drop-off was 3 or 4 miles away. I wait a while at Old Chicago since they close the downstairs at 10 and move everything upstairs where all the employees proceed to ignore everyone not ordering an alcoholic drink. Get the food and drive to the address. It's a house with 0 lights on. Knock on the door repeatedly, ring the doorbell, no answer, so I attempt to call the customer, who put their work phone number so I have their full name and work address. This is important for later. Get sent to voicemail 3 separate times, so I start the timer. Timer runs out. This was back when the timer was 10 minutes standard, and I start driving away. I'm not familiar with the area, so I turn around at the end of the street and see a car coming up. A guy jumps out and throws himself in front of my car to make me stop. Asks if I'm DoorDash, and I say yes. Starts giving me some sob story about his wife accidentally ordering food to the house when they were at a pool hall, blah, blah, blah. He drove super fast to get here in time, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't want to disappoint his wife. I say, why didn't she answer the phone then? Or respond to the timer or notifications? I have already ran out the timer and don't know if I'm allowed to just give the food to any random person who drives up without talking to support. I was very new and didn't want to get in trouble. Now I just don't give a fuck. He's like, she didn't. And proceeds to call her. She also sends him to voicemail 3 times before picking up. He looks so embarrassed. I'm pulling up support chat at this time. She finally answers the phone, and he explains what's going on, and she asks him to pass the phone to me. I take it, and this lady starts spewing the most vile shit to me in a high-pitched screech. She's the customer. The customer is always right. I better do this, this, and that. She's gonna get me fired, calling me all kinds of names, saying she's gonna find me and kill me if I don't give her husband the food. I tell this lady I'm not your slave, and I don't have to do jack shit, and hang up the guy's phone and hand it back to him. Dump the food out the car window onto the street BC. I am not doing any favors for someone who speaks to me like that. I roll up the window and this guy starts punching on it so hard he cracks it, so I drive away. Get a call from support later asking what happened, and I tell them the whole story, send them pics of my cracked window, and they side with me over this clearly unhinged woman and her husband. I've never felt so insulted in my life. I have to file a claim to fix my window and want revenge. So the lady works for State Farm. Her name was Leah. Every time I got an order from State Farm for Leah, I'd either accept it and make no effort to go to the restaurant beyond marking arrived or pick up the food, but purposefully deliver it to the wrong suite in the State Farm building, or to make it extra fun, mark customer unavailable and leave the food in the parking lot. It's worth the 1 star from her every time to make a point about being nice to the person you are requesting a service from. I have her house bookmarked in Google Maps as that bitch Leah's house. Zaid Muhammad, 27, repeatedly attended his victim's address uninvited. He made a bogus drop-off so he could speak to the woman, and on another occasion sat in a car outside her home before following her to her door. The Just Eat worker said he was lonely and asked to get inside the property, unaware the woman's boyfriend was already inside. Muhammad, who was living in Dunfermline on a student visa, appeared at the city's sheriff court for sentencing on Thursday. He previously admitted that on occasions between December 24th, 2024 and January 1st this year in Los Gelly, he engaged in stalking behavior towards the woman. Deputy Fiscal Brogan Moffat said the victim, who the court heard has since moved, had previously made Just Eat food orders from Dario's in Cowdenbeath, where Muhammad worked as a delivery driver. On Christmas Eve at around 10 p.m., she was at home when Muhammad appeared at her door with food, but she told him she had not ordered it. Zaid produced a receipt which he said showed she had made the Just Eat order, but she told him to go away. On the afternoon of January 1st, the woman had gone to a local shop, and when she returned home, she saw Muhammad following her. Ms. Moffat said, she was walking back upstairs and he was behind her as she went through the close to her flat. CCTV footage would show that Zaid waited in a car outside her home and followed behind her when she came home. She asked if he was all right and he said he was lonely and had just wanted to see her again. He asked if he could come into her home, but she refused. He then asked if she remembered him coming to her door with the food. The court heard he told the woman, "I did that to see you." She went into her home, locked the door, and was crying when she told her partner what had happened. When he went to the door, Muhammad apologized and left. Defense solicitor Amy Harley said her client is currently unemployed and had been on a visa to finish his education. She said it was a difficult time with his mental health and he had come out of a difficult relationship. The solicitor continued, he says he felt extremely isolated and extremely lonely following the cultural shock of moving to Scotland. He felt disconnected to his own country. She added, he's not making excuses. He was simply looking for companionship and looking for someone to talk to. He's now keeping his head down and wants to get back into employment when his mental health is back under control. Sheriff James Hasty put Muhammad on a structured, deferred sentence and he will return to court on May 28th. He was also made subject to a non-harassment order for a year. To kick things off, local illustrator and fry bread impresario Hawk Krall recalls some hilarious incidents from his time working at a national pizza chain while he was in high school. So during high school, I worked at a small delivery branch of a large national pizza chain. I work the phones and the line and have plenty of stories about horrible, awful things happening to food. All that stuff you hear about and think is urban legend. I never saw it happen in a professional kitchen or even a dive bar, but a suburban pizza chain run by stoned high school dropouts, yes. To be honest, most of the delivery stories are about the drivers themselves, rather than robberies or the 70s porn situation that everyone jokes about. One guy had a CD selling scam where he had 25 P.O. boxes in the area and would order hundreds of CDs with fake names from Columbia House. Those things in the 90s where you could order 12 albums for $1 or whatever. Then he made this list with his pager number on top, again this is the 90s, and passed them out all over town. You would just send a code indicating Pearl Jam or Biggie Smalls, and he would drop it off between pizzas. There was another driver who was 8 feet tall and looked like Dennis Hopper. He only worked 3 months a year, and the story was that he made bank in the stock market the rest of the year. Turns out, stock market really meant moving large quantities of drugs through the suburbs, which I'm pretty sure everyone else who worked there was also a part of. Another guy sold dime bags and 40s of Colt 45 out of the window of his apartment. Another dude whose wife kicked him out or whatever actually lived in the back of the restaurant, sleeping on top of cases of flour and Coca-Cola syrup. Instead of selling drugs or stolen Red Hot Chili Peppers albums out of the back of his car, he was stealing cheese and selling it to rival pizza places at 3 a.m. I was basically working for the white trash pizza mafia. It was so cold out. He took one step in, and all of a sudden we heard screaming from across the street where people were gathered outside of a community center. Someone was getting into the delivery driver's car, but his first attempts to drive off were thwarted by his inability to drive stick shift. The delivery person ran back out to the car and stood in front of it yelling as the car thief revved the engine and the car bucked back and forth. Eventually the car stalled and the delivery guy attempted to open the door and remove the thief. This is when things got a little scary. The thief began fighting back and reaching into coat as if he had a weapon. When the delivery guy backed away, the thief restarted the car and this time got it into gear. He began sputtering down the street as the delivery guy ran alongside and banged on the car until the thief reached a suitable speed to drive off, never to return. We had the delivery guy come back to our house and contacted the police. He sat there and waited as we all just looked at the pizza we were supposed to eat. It was really awkward. Plus, what do you tip a guy that just had his car stolen? In the end, no one was hurt, and we still see that same delivery driver and laugh about the story with him to this day. My husband and I ordered a pizza from a local place, waited the usual 30 to 45 minutes, nothing. After an hour, we called the restaurant, and they said that it had already been out for delivery. Well, obviously we hadn't gotten it yet, so they sent our order out again, and the delivery person called our phone box, and we came to pick up our food and pay for it. When we got to the door, the delivery person was livid, saying that he'd been at our building before and called us and we refused delivery. This is our dinner. Why would we refuse it? No, I talked to a woman on the intercom and she sounded just like you and she said no. Okay, but we ordered the food, we wanted the food, we're here for the food. But the lady, who sounds a lot like you by the way, said she didn't order anything. He continued to argue with us, saying it was our fault for denying the order when all along he'd clearly tried to deliver it to the wrong place. This was probably 2 years ago from a place on your Philly's essential pizzeria list. The delivery guy called, so I went down the 3 flights of stairs to answer the door. It's pouring rain, and the guy isn't here. I wait a minute and call him back to double check he's at the right place. He stubbornly insists he's standing on my stoop, so I say, I think you're at the wrong address. I'm on my stoop, can you see me? He can't, but is still convinced he's at the right address, and is now being a dick about it. Eventually I say, tell me what you're looking at. I'm outside, and if you're not looking at me, then you're at the wrong address. He describes the block 1 east of mine, but continues to convince himself he's at the right address. So now I call the restaurant and ask them to send the driver to the correct address. A guy eventually shows up at my address with a soaking wet pizza. This is 20 minutes after the initial I'm here call, and the box was so wet you could wring it out like a soaked kitchen towel. I call the restaurant again. They're apologetic and say they'll send a new pie right over. The people at the restaurant were totally cool and polite about the whole thing. The same delivery guy came back to my address with a fresh pie really quickly, but demanded I go back upstairs to get the wet pie out of the trash before I get the fresh one. So I go up, get the wet one, back down, trade for the new pie, and finally get to eat the dinner my wife ordered 2 hours earlier. Final note, I live on the same street as the restaurant. 6 blocks, straight shot. I recently got a pizza delivered and the delivery guy was hopping around, kind of strangely, until he begged to use my bathroom. I let him in and he not only left the seat up, but he also didn't wash his hands. Who was handling my precious pizza?